Okay, are we recording? All right, good afternoon. I'd like to call the special meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order for Tuesday, March 17th, 2020. We're starting a little bit late. It is 4:44 due to various factors, but please rise, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public comments, we have no public with us this afternoon. There's no additional correspondence. I'm going to go to item number 4 for Selectmen's report. Just want to reiterate a couple of announcements that we put out over the past couple of days. Obviously, the town is focused on doing what it can to minimize the impact of the coronavirus and prevent its spread. The thing that makes this virus so difficult and so dangerous, it does have a higher lethality index than the flu. It's similar to the flu in many respects, but it does have a higher death rate, especially in older individuals. And the problem with it is that a person can have this virus and be shedding it for up to 2 weeks before they know they have it. The average is between 5 and 6 days from exposure to onset, but in that 5 or 6 day period, people can be actively infecting others, and that's different than the flu. The flu usually comes on within 24 hours, so a person who has it know they have it, and they know to sequester themselves. So the spread of the virus is not as great as it is with the COVID virus. The actions that we've taken, Laura's department has been extremely busy fielding calls, inspecting nursing homes and daycare centers to make sure that they are following the proper procedures. Here at Town Hall, we have minimized impact or minimized interface with the public. Essentially, Bethel Town Hall is closed to the public for in-person visits, except for the tax office, because they have a glass barrier that provides some security. All employees have been trained in mitigation techniques. Employees who handle currency in the tax collector's office and in the clerk's office are sanitizing all surfaces after every visit, and they're wearing gloves to protect themselves. Town Hall is still operating on a normal schedule, but we're asking the public to make appointments if they need to, if they absolutely positively have to conduct business face-to-face in any department other than the tax office. They're asked to make an appointment. I'm very happy to report that we instituted that this morning, and the community has been extremely supportive and extremely cooperative. We've had no problems, we've had no misunderstandings, no difficulties. I've checked with all the department heads. They are fielding calls. The vast majority of people are learning how to do their transactions online. And really, the calls we're getting are people who want to help. So the community is responding very, very well to this. Last evening, in case you were not aware, the governor issued orders that all bars and restaurants, gyms, and what's the other one? Salons, I think, must close effective at 8 p.m. last night until further notice. Restaurants that prepare food can have takeout service, and I know that virtually all of our local restaurants have done that. However, bars that don't serve food are just closed for the time being until further notice. And then in accordance with the executive order that came from the governor on Sunday afternoon, which I was part of a task force that was with CCM and cost that was negotiating with state officials. The governor has issued an order that supersedes all local charters with regard to our budget process. So as a result of that order, I've pushed back our budget process by 30 days. So we will not have our town budget public hearing on March 23rd as originally planned. That will be pushed back to April 27th. and we expect the town meeting to be held on Monday, May 4th. And then possible referendum date is either Tuesday, May 12th, or Thursday, May 14th, depending on how quickly the registrars and town clerk's office can respond. So that's it in a nutshell. Any questions or comments at this point?
Thank you.
Yes. Paul?
What happens, Carson, what happens if this goes on, because my knowledge in this area is pretty strong. We approached May. Are there do you have Plan B already?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. The executive order actually allows towns to go out 45 days. I've only taken 30.
Yeah.
If in the next 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, we see that, the infection rate is ramping up and it looks like restrictions have to be tightened or kept in place, we do have the option to continue to move back a little bit. If it goes beyond that, quite frankly, we'll probably need help from an act of the legislature. And we're in discussions with both CCM and Cost, and several of us at the municipal level are in discussions with the governor's staff, as well as our delegation on that now.
Because it could float over beyond our fiscal year. That's my concern.
It could, and I know our charter allows, Marty, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe if we start the fiscal year without an approved budget, we carry over from the previous year's numbers for the first 90 days.
Okay.
But the governor's office has been made very keenly aware that we're staring down the barrel of some pretty tight deadlines on this. We've also asked them to look at things like pushing back the deadline for elderly tax paperwork to go in, because, basically you have to come in and have a meeting with John Sarver, and this is the most vulnerable population that we have in town, and we're trying to minimize their exposure. We're also looking at the Assessment Board of Appeals, or Board of Assessment Appeals, because those appeals must all be completed by no later than March 31st. So we're going to be asking the governor if we can have a 30-day relief on that as well. So I expect to hear within the next couple of days how much the governor plans to do. So, any other questions on that? All right, thank you very much. Next order of business is consideration of the minutes of the special meeting of Monday, March 2nd, 2020. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Great. I'll second. Any changes, any corrections? And hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, that carries. Item number 6, consideration of approval of tax refunds. And let's see, where'd that go?
You've got that in your stack.
Oh, there it is. I pulled it apart. I'll put a motion on the floor that we authorize tax refunds at the request of the tax collector's office in the amount of $1,963.42.
Second?
And these are, as usual, a result of overpayment of taxes. Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that carries. Item number 7, consideration of Chestnut Ridge resolution. This is passed along to us from the Public Utilities Commission, and this is the final step which allows us to apply for relief from, or apply for a loan through the Department of Public Health. So let me read this resolution. Be it resolved that Town of Bethel, Connecticut, a corporation organized and existing under the laws of the state of Connecticut, hereby certify that the following is a true copy of a resolution adopted at a meeting of the Board of Selectmen of said corporation duly held on the 17th day of March 2020. Whereas by the townwide machine vote held on March 10th, 2020, in accordance with the Connecticut General Statutes 7-7, following a special town meeting of March 2nd, 2020, the Town of Bethel approved a resolution recommended by the Public Utilities Commission and approved by the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance to fund an amount not to exceed $2,239,681 for the construction of a water tank for the project referred to and known as, quote, the Chestnut Ridge Water Tank Project, close quote. Said funding shall come from bonding, bond anticipatory notes, loans, temporary borrowing, and/or other appropriation as recommended by the comptroller, to be reduced by any available grants obtained by the town of Bethel and/or the Bethel Public Utilities Commission, if any. Payment for the appropriated sum shall be made by the water account users of the Bethel Public Utilities Commission. Whereas the town of Bethel, Connecticut is desirous to make application to the state of Connecticut Department of Public Health or other such state agency for loans and/or grants for funding to achieve the construction of the Chestnut Ridge Water Tank Project. Further, Matthew S. Knickerbocker, First Selectman of the town of Bethel, Connecticut, or his designee, is authorized to provide such additional information and execute such other documents as may be required by any agency of the state of Connecticut in conjunction with any loans and/or grants submitted by the town of Bethel, Connecticut for the construction of the Chestnut Ridge Water Tank Project. As to any amendments, rescissions, and/or revisions to the applications, proposals, and/or agreements submitted hereto, dated at Bethel, Connecticut, 17th of March, 2020. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that carries. So Lisa will sign this tomorrow, and then we actually expect to be able to break ground sometime in April. So DPH has already given their verbal approval, they're just waiting for the paperwork. Item number 8, consideration of an 824 referral to 137 and 137 to 147 Rockwell Road, open space. And do we have paperwork on that?
Yes, it was in that packet with the tax.
Oh, with the
Ken
tax stuff?
and-
Behind it.
Yep, oh, there it is. You're saving paper and I'm not paying attention. All right. Marty, do you know, can you just give us a brief idea of what this is?
Yeah, well, what it is that, this is Tricia Lewis's old property.
Yes.
And, gentleman bought it, he broke off a couple of lots, and in the meantime, there's gonna be some open space that he's dedicating. You'll see, cause it's got the two addresses there, 147, 137, she owned a couple of lots together. And then also, there's a section of the road that's gonna be widened, that's gonna be dedicated to the town.
Okay.
And they needed this is the one where Peter Olson's representing, I think it's Bruno bought it.
Yeah.
I should know, I can't remember though.
Yeah.
So what's happening is, he wanted to push it through, get it going, and I have to speak to Peter because I want a big copy of the map so I can see it. I need to see his proposed deeds, open space. But we were gonna wait until P and Z did their 824 referral.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right.
So-
But
Oh, go ahead.
to that point, Marty, they say the two parcels of open space, that's not saying that where the road area is supposed to be widened, that's not open space.
No, but that's not,
It's
yeah,
not- it
I don't
doesn't
think we
clarify it.
considered that, I don't think we've ever considered the road widening to be an 824 referral.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
But they approved it that way.
Yeah.
That's another thing, where they're going ahead with another 820, it's like approval for the sake of approval, because they've already approved all this already. So I'm not too worried about that. Just a
I
small
just wanna
section.
make sure that we weren't locking ourselves in, that was gonna be open space in front of the.
No, and my opinion is I'm gonna ask him for copies of the deeds and the maps, and then before I sign off on anything, I'll bring them in and show them to you.
It'll be clarified, this is open space here
Yep.
and here, and this is,
Yes.
belongs to the town.
The other thing I haven't told him yet, I've been telling most people, is that I either want a certificate of title from the attorney or title insurance in the amount of $10,000 for any open space we get. Just in case there's a problem, we can fall back on something. Because I'm not doing a title search, so let them deal with it.
All right, well, I'll put a motion on the floor that we refer 137 to N 147 Rockwell Road to planning and zoning for under CGS 8-24.
No, you already
No,
did.
we-
Oh, you already did that?
You
Yeah,
did,
we
you
did
did it,
that.
you got this back
This is
saying that it's
approval.
open.
Oh, that's it, okay.
You
So,
wanna refer it to me to follow up with the documentation.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we refer to the town attorney
right,
for review and recommendation.
Second.
All right, those in favor?
aye.
Aye, that carries. Item number 9, consideration of recommendations from the Charter Revision Commission. At their final meeting, that goes all the way back to February, to the end of February, Essentially, they accepted our request to remove the non-binding advisory questions, which was a little bit of a controversial discussion. And then they've made a couple other language changes. Marty, at this point, it's up to us to accept or not accept. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. I think they did what you wanted them to do.
Yeah, they did.
You know, I don't have any, I looked this over, I don't have any problems with what they've done, you know, about the purchasing cooperatives. It's gotta be approved by you people first. And then the other thing is, there's a second thing here that Nick did. Where is it here? I spoke to Nick about my problem with the
Is it
advertising.
The newspaper language?
And I'm happy with the language. It says, should the Connecticut legislature enact legislation changing the newspaper publication requirement for any statute, the town may utilize the new requirement accordingly.
Okay,
So, I mean, you know, just find out what it is, if it does happen, and it was too broad before, that's all.
yeah.
So I don't have a problem with this.
No, what's our timeline? Like, when is this?
I don't remember, I mean, to be honest with you.
But I mean, it's not like in the next 2 months, is it? I don't think.
We had up to a year and a half to put it on the vote or
Yeah,
something like
but
that,
I think though,
once we accept it.
hold on a second here, maybe, I think I got the file, I'm just looking for my memo that I did.
But I have a question about the consortium. Ready?
Jeez, I thought I had the memo here.
Yeah, you had given us one a while ago.
I don't see it now. It says, well, what it's supposed to say, not later than 15 days after receiving the final report, the appointing authority by a majority vote of its entire membership shall either approve the proposed charter amendments, or home rule ordinance amendments, or reject the same or separate provisions thereof. Not later than 45 days after a vote of the appointing authority to reject such a matter, a petition can come forward. Not later than 30 days after approval by the appointing authority, the proposed charter shall be published in full, at least once in a newspaper having a general circulation in the municipality, or the portion of the charter being amended shall be published at least once in a newspaper having. So you got 30 days. If you approve it, you got 30 days to publish.
Okay,
We have to publish the entire change.
Yeah, the changes, yeah, we're not gonna
Change.
publish the whole thing,
I
I
was
would just
gonna
say
say, yeah.
publish the
Yeah.
changes, just the
Um,
changes. Geez, I can't believe I don't have it here in this file.
now, once we publish it, let's say we accept it tonight, if we publish it within 30 days, how much time do we have before we have to have a referendum?
Either at the next regular election or a special election warned and held for that purpose, but not later than 15 months after
Oh,
the
okay.
approval of the appointing
Okay.
authority.
Fine,
All right, that's,
yeah.
So you got.
okay, we're good. Well, I'm good with what they said back to us.
I am too.
Okay,
I'm
Well,
glad.
I have a question about, you wanna make a motion to accept it? and
yeah,
we'll
I'll put a
discuss
motion on
it?
the floor that we accept the revised charter recommendations.
I'll second that.
Okay,
All right, my question is on the consortium. They're saying exactly what we currently do. If they wanna go to a consortium, they have to come to the Board of Selectmen. That's the same thing that they do now.
Well, yes and no. There's been one or two things that I got phone calls from somebody just saying, we've got this, is it a problem or whatever, and it didn't show up here. You know, if you're asking me exactly
All right,
which
so
they are.
this will
I
tell
don't-
them that they have to
This,
come here.
that's right, so they've gotta come in front of the board to make that decision. If it's something, you know, obviously if my opinion would be, if let's say they use the XYZ cooperative, and they come and they ask you, let's say the Public Works or Highway or whatever come and ask you for it, and you grant it once, I don't see a problem with them doing it again without having to come back again, as long as they're going to the same organization. They go to a different organization, they gotta come back and get a sign off. That's my opinion. That's how I would interpret it.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
all right, any other comments? Hearing none, so we have a motion on the floor to accept the work of the Charter Commission as revised and resubmitted. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, that carries. And I want to thank the Charter, they're not here, but I want to publicly thank the Charter Commission for the many, many months that they've put in on this. It's not an easy task. It can be frustrating and divisive, and I think they did a very good job. Last item, to consider recommendation for appointment to the Park and Recreation Commission to fill the vacancy left by Mr. William Pullen, who passed away recently, and I want to publicly offer my condolences to the Pullen family. Bill Pullen was Mr. Baseball for many, many decades in the town of Bethel and did a lot to advance sports for our youth. He will be missed. His contributions are many, and I'd like to put a motion on the floor that we accept the Bethel Republican Town Committee's recommendation that we appoint Mr. David Pinenberg to fill that vacancy for the remainder of the term.
I'll make a second.
All right, any discussion?
No.
Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that carries. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that carries. Thank you.